See, I understand now why Marx dominates the world of academia. It's because every professor wants in their black, greasy little heart to be him. Here you have a lazy piece of shit who maybe had the ability to do real work, but never had the desire to do it. He enjoys thinking and expressing so much that it's his whole life. He'd sooner starve than work a real job, unless that job is newspaper man. And he lacks the physical charisma or the killer instinct to make it in business, politics, religion, or war. No Alexander he'll ever be, and it anguishes him because he's the sort that imagines running it all. But what happens to the guy? He lucks in on the one big idea. It's mostly the same ancient, tired old one big idea that's always plagued us. But he paints it up with eloquence to enrapture people on a scale never before seen. And for as many lazy big thinkers as we've had, your Aristotles and Einsteins and such, they're mostly men of science or men of a specific situation. But Marx somehow breaks through and becomes the Jesus Christ, Muhammad, and Moses of the modern world. He doesn't build empires, but he inspires men to go build empires and conquer worlds for his one big idea. People die by the tens, maybe hundreds of millions battling for his glory. They compose piles of songs and books and paintings and statues dedicated, if not to him, then to his one big idea, his memory. It's a truly incredible story that some little newspaper man directed other people's hands to shape the world for him, and he never even lived to see it. And that's why every historian, sociologist, and behind a veneer of disdain economist is obsessed with him. Every such small man that lives off ideas wishes they were Marx. Now compare to Adam Smith. Smith was done such a disservice by history, by the public memory, even by his own adherents who misunderstood him. See, with Marx, it was always this great, beautiful romance about him, because there was such a romance, a heroism about that effort to bring the end of days and heaven on earth. And looking down from that ivory tower, those professors could even see some tragic beauty in the massive suffering it wrought, the life that was crushed out of those millions of people. They could see that from that ivory tower. Couldn't see it if that boot had been on their own face. Now, with Smith, there didn't seem to be that romance. There didn't seem to be that noble spirit. Just cold pragmatism and hedonism. They made the man into an ogre, and such an insult to him, as I believe he had a much richer soul. Here was a guy who, like Marx, lived in his head. But whereas Marx seemed to see nothing but oppression and apocalypse, a war of every man trying to screw over every other, Smith saw a beautiful, incredible order to things. Order that, like nature, required no dictator, required no planning, but instead sprung naturally out of humanity. The world arranging itself as if by the guiding touch of those invisible hands. The world growing into a garden of human potential, with him along for the ride, lost in his reveries. A wonderland. A great peace. And Smith delighted in it. And he lived at a time when man was rediscovering the wonder of the world. Men were turning their gaze down from the heavens and back to the earth, seeing for the first time the face of God in nature. But for him, it was those very things that other people scorned that fired up his passions, gave him shivers of excitement. Business, society, work, the hustle and bustle of day-to-day life. To see that same order, explore and contemplate that same mystery in the most mundane of things. To have a sense of place in the world and to feel peace. And they called it materialist, when he was the man who put the spirit back into matter. It is in the great court of history that Smith was vindicated and Marx was condemned. Though as long as there is someone that wants to live on another's work or rule another's life, Marx haunts us. But for me, it is just as important to look at the soul of a man. Marx went through life always unhappy, always angry. And in his thinking, that same tone comes across. Materialistic and combative to the core. Nothing to his world but some evil apes duking it out. And though he called it science, he created religion. Smith took the religion of his heart and made of it science. A world spinning out of control, meaning from chaos. Demanding men do the impossible, being at peace with human nature. Order of man, order of nature.